I want to thank all the panelists who are taking part today in providing your ideas and your leadership and your experience. And many of you took part in some of the 9 regional economic development summits which we held around the state. So I thank you for your continuing commitment to this endeavor. And then most of all, I want to thank all of you. If you look around this room, there are 700, a couple more still alive, but of businessmen, women, civic leaders, public officials, people from all walks of life, all parts of Minnesota, gathered together around our shared desire to create a better future for our state of Minnesota. And I want to also acknowledge and recognize my partner in that undertaking, Lieutenant Governor Yvonne Pretner-Solon, who is sitting over here, and who's still making the adjustments of, was it 13 time zones, having just returned from a trade mission to China. So, but you know, almost a quarter century ago, in 1987, a Yale history professor, Paul Kennedy, wrote a book called The Rise and Fall of Nations. And in it, he made simply a very profound observation that in the whole course of human history throughout the world, no former world superpower still is, except for, of course, the United States. And most of those countries' populations believed at the time that their economic and military preeminence was divinely ordained and divinely guaranteed. And most of them found out too late that that simply wasn't the case. That the course of history brought, in most cases, a parabola where nations rose, ascended to that pinnacle, were preeminent for a period of time, and then usually he hypothesized for a combination of factors, overextension of empire, and the costs associated with that, combined with a shifting of the ground of supremacy upon which that economic platform rested, combined, and slowly those countries slid off of their preeminence. Well, the book got a little bit of credence back then at the end of the 80s and very early 90s with a recession in early 90 and 91, and then with the successful, sustained growth of the balance of that decade fell into disrepair, disrepute. And if you go back to about a decade, to 2001, you'd say that this country, quite to the contrary, had even strengthened its overall role. And as I went into the United States Senate 10 years ago, the Office of Management and Budget was forecasting budget surpluses in the operating account of the federal government for the previous 2 years to be extended for the following decade. Setting aside the Social Security surplus of about $180 billion a year. The operating account of the federal government was in balance for the first time in 29 years. And expected to remain so. Similarly, Minnesota enjoyed a period of a couple of decades of sustained economic growth, doing better than most other states even during economic downturns, and expanding our economy and our employment and our per capita income consistently during those decades, to the point where in 2002, we ranked 7th highest among the states in per capita income. Well, this last decade marks a profound change for this country and for this state. And a decade later, you see the federal government with gargantuan budget deficits and a continuing unemployment rate that refuses to budge. And a report just recently that despite this so-called economic recovery, that median family income in this country has declined during the last 2 years. Well, the economy was supposedly going out of that, what many are calling the Great Recession. Similarly, Minnesota's per capita income ranking has slipped from 7th highest in 2002 to 13th highest in 2010. And as the last 4 state budget forecasts show, the econometric firm, in collaboration with the state financial experts, opined that Minnesota's historic standing in the relatively high ranking in per capita income growth and employment growth alike, both in absolute terms and relative to other states, has declined. So here we are today, a tale of a city, a tale of a state, tale of 2 cities. I was thinking a tale of a state and a tale of a country, remarkably similar, having enjoyed sustained prosperity and preeminence within that country and within the world, now at a critical juncture, whether we can retain our presence on the pinnacle of accomplishment and achievement, which I'll leave it to you to decide whether it was foreordained, but it was achieved. It was achieved by so many thousands of Minnesotans working together. It was achieved by so many millions of Minnesotans all working together. It was achieved by generations of Minnesotans who had ideas, who became entrepreneurs, who grew successful businesses into large corporations, or grew them into successful small businesses that provide critical employment throughout our state. Having the privilege and the opportunity over the last several months to hold these 9 regional economic development summits, as well as the years I've spent traveling around the state, I'm impressed once again with the wonderful diversity of our state and the richness of our human capital, the richness of the ideas and the intelligence and the experience of people throughout Minnesota. And if we can harness that successfully and even more creatively and more effectively in response to these challenges that we face, I'm very optimistic for the future of our state. Conversely, there are very real challenges which we face, which are going to mean this next half century are probably going to be much more difficult to achieve the economic success that we have for our state and nation than over this previous 50 years. I've been to China 6 times in this decade. I've seen some of those 1.3 billion people willing to work and work very hard at jobs that used to be here in this country. I remember going to one Nike plant about an hour outside of Shanghai, a quote-unquote small plant, only 5,000 workers. The large plants, I'm told, have over 100,000 workers. They said 250 pairs of hands touches every pair of Nike shoes they produce there. It's not innovation, it's not high tech, it's cheap labor. Young men and women, upwardly mobile, ambitious, working very hard for 50, 60 cents an hour, 100, 120 hours a week. It's a lot better than 2 cents an hour in the village. And those jobs aren't coming back. But also in China, they have a company called M3, where they take 3M products like Scotch tape and stickum pads and they copy them. They can imitate our products. What they can't do as yet is innovate and create them, because they don't grow up in a democracy where you can aspire to be whoever you want to be. They don't grow up in a capitalist economy where you have those rewards, incentives that aren't transmitted in the genetic code, that are learned behaviors from a very early age and hopefully nurtured through a good educational system, and then on to opportunities either that exist in the workplace or that are going to be self-created. And it's that entrepreneurship, it's that innovation, it's that taking of everything that this country offers, which makes it still the greatest country on the planet, and using that to propel individual achievement and family accomplishment and societal advancement all forward. And so that's the opportunity we have, that's the challenge we face. And that's why we're all gathered here together today, because we love our state, because we care about its future for ourselves and our children and our grandchildren, because we want a successful Minnesota. We may disagree on the particulars, but we all, I know, share that same sincere conviction that brought us here together today. So I would ask only that today be a day for no politics or polemics. It'd be a day for ideas, not ideologies. That in the sessions that we have, the breakout sessions, that we all participate, honor different points of view, and find what it is that we agree upon, what are our shared ideas that we think will work best for Minnesota. Not for particular individual advancements or others, but for the benefit of all of us, for the benefit of the future of the state of Minnesota. Thank you again for being here today.